Hello, everyone, please, friends, and with yourself. So, as we get back into the flow of the course, I'm looking forward to resuming this week content with you and seeing and reading your reflections and insights in the research discussions, learning engagements as we continue our journey together for the remaining weeks of this session, which is going to be only 3 weeks, 6, 7, and 8. And hopefully, it's going to be a productive and engaging week ahead. As you know, for week 6, you have to submit your final paper draft, as you can see here. So this is for week 6, and you need to submit your final paper draft here. So for your final paper draft, make sure that you follow a very well-defined structure. You need to have the definitely a title page for your final paper, following APA principles and formatting principles. Then you have to have introduction. Abstract and table of content are not mandatory, absolutely optional. If you want to have them, you are more than welcome to add those, but it's not mandatory. And then you can have the introduction section, and then you need to start your literature review. You need to talk about your methodology, whatever you have been using, the methodology that you're using. If you're just only exploring the literature review, is going to be semi-systematic literature review for your methodology, but you have to mention what methodology you have used for gathering your data. And then the next section is going to be your data analysis, whatever that you've gathered, which can be studies or like whatever you've gathered from literature review exploration. You need to start analyzing them properly from the lens that you have chosen for your final paper. And then the next section is going to be your result and then conclusion. And of course, references, which should be at the end of your final paper. Your final paper should be very close to, this is a draft version, but should be very close to your final paper that you will be submitting on week 8. The only difference is that you will have the opportunity to receive feedback, modify as needed, and then receive a very good point, hopefully, on your week 8 final paper submission. The only section that you still can mention that, okay, like for example, I have these 2-3 pages, but still I need to complete that section, is the data analysis. That at this point, you should have gathered all the data that you require. And for data analysis, and make sure that you just want to understand and polish it a little bit more, you can still work on that section. The rest of the sections should be almost very close to complete, and like the section should be completed, all those sections. So make sure that you submit a very thorough and complete final paper as your draft, so you will receive a very good feedback on your final paper draft, and you will modify as needed so you can submit your final paper and receive a very good grade, hopefully, on your final paper. If you have any questions regarding your final paper or any questions regarding the feedback that I already have provided to you, to your title justifications or like your title, make sure to reach out, and do not hesitate to reach out, because that was just like a main stepping stone for you to build your paper upon that. And as always, I'm here to support you whenever you have any questions or need any help. I'll be more than happy to help you as needed. Okay, now we are we will be talking about chapter 11 about managing the new product development process. To those of you who are interested in project management field, this session is going to be a very interesting session. Why? Because we're going to talk about different methodology, like for example, Scrum, Sprint, like different framework and methodology like Agile or Waterfall. It's going to be very interesting and exciting to many of you who are interested in project management concepts. So without further ado, let's start talking about them. Like any other chapters, as always, this chapter starts with a very interesting case study, and it's about Cisco and how Cisco kind of transform its method from a traditional way to a very modern approach. And how did it work for them? For years, Cisco system was just following a traditional waterfall method. And most of you know Cisco. It's a giant company in the network industry, and they used the waterfall method for software development. I have a very nice video for you to watch. Next slide. Only to understand these approaches and methodologies, what is SDLC, waterfall, agile, etc. And I want to center the whole session, the live lecture today, it's not live lecture, the lecture today around these methodologies. So you will have a very good understanding of all of them by the end of this lecture, hopefully. So in this approach, the waterfall approach, each team works through a sequential set of steps, right? And usually we start with planning. We just want to plan what we're going to do, and then design, and then start coding. After coding is done, we start testing the software, and then deployment. It's a very well-defined sequence set of steps for waterfall approach. Usually the waterfall approach is very linear, and each stage of the development process should be completed before we move on the next one. This sequential approach caused a very little to no overlap or feedback during the process. That's the reason that we just actually had long development cycles, right? Because it's so structured, it can actually take a long time. Usually for any software development, it used to take around 18 months or more to go from initiation or inception phase or initial idea to a finished product. Another drawback of this methodology is because everything was just like planned out upfront and done in sequence, it was very difficult to make adjustments based on any type of feedback during development. So the product might be outdated by the time it is released. And that was a big, huge problem in front of the team. So waterfall could be slow, rigid, and not very adaptable, especially if you're working and operating in fast-moving industries like tech industry. So Cisco thought that, okay, how can we just actually improve our status? So they shifted to agile development. In around 2014, Cisco decided to make a major change to its development process and moved toward an agile approach. So if you're asking, what's the difference and why was it so important to Cisco? Let me explain it to you. Cisco started to breaking the product, as you can see here in this graph, into smaller parts. Instead of building the entire product in one go, Cisco started breaking the product down into smaller, manageable parts or features. And of course, this allowed the team to focus on specific aspects of the product at a time, and ultimately it caused speeding up development. In the agile methodology, individual teams are given the autonomy to work on specific features, which on the other side, in waterfall approach, we do not have such level of autonomous teams, right? So each team can operate somewhat independently and it's on its own pace without waiting for the other teams to finish their project. So we see a lot of overlaps and concurrent or simultaneous activities in agile methodology. But this makes the process more flexible and, of course, way faster. One of the key components of agile development is that the product is released in small increments regularly. As you can see, these circles in this graph or this picture is just like all the design, build, release. They're just like small increments that make us to be flexible, faster, and just like definitely adaptable. And this allows developers to get real-time feedback. The customer is with us from the inception phase all the way to the deployment and testing. So this is really good because whenever the customer feels that, you know what, we want to modify this feature, we can do it immediately. We can fix bugs early and make any changes to the product much faster than with the waterfall approach, because in the waterfall approach, we have to wait till the end of the project and demo our project to the customer and then gather feedback. And guess what? If something needs to be changed, we have to just actually go back all the way to the design and modify our product or our software, which is going to be very costly and time consuming for us. So quick adjustment is just like part of the agile project, agile methodology. And since teams are working in shorter cycles, they can actually adjust quickly based on the feedback they receive from the customer or even from the market. So if something is not working, it definitely can be fixed immediately rather than after months and months of development, waiting for the latest project to be released or product to be released, and then we gather feedback and the product could be even isolated. So these are just like the main differences between agile and waterfall. And I'm going to talk about each one of them in more detail in next slides. But before we talk about them, let's just actually watch what is SDLC based on what I explained to you. Let me just actually stop sharing, make sure that I have shared the sound as well, so you can, okay, you can hear the sound as well. Okay, let's watch together.
Take the next step in treating your moderate to severe ulcerative colitis with Entyvio, the only gut-focused treatment.
Life cycle, the deployment, and maintenance. Meet Adam, an aspiring entrepreneur. He is interested in hosting an online store for home decor products like vases, curtains, artwork, and home furnishings. He requires a software application that would allow the customers to browse the available products at their fingertips and buy them online. Adam, eager to jump into his new business, wanted to understand how this software development process works. To start with his business idea, Adam meets his cousin Mark, who is a software developer and a good one at it. He pitches his idea and asks his cousin to help him design an online business application. Mark explains to Adam the way of designing the best online shopping application. We need to understand the working of the software development lifecycle, also known as the SDLC. It involves distinctive phases to initiate the software production based on the client requirements. Further, Mark briefs Adam about the 6 crucial phases of SDLC in designing any software application: planning requirements phase, requirement analysis phase, designing phase, implementation phase, testing phase, deployment and maintenance phase. The development team will commence production post agreeing on the terms and conditions discussed between the client and the development team regarding all the proceedings and requirements. Initiating the production with the planning requirements phase, where the client and the development team will discuss the basic requirements for the software, like the purpose of the application, the details about the end user of the product, key elements like format and attributes of the application for designing, and the overall user interfaces design of the software. The development moves on to the second stage, the requirement analysis phase, which includes the detailed information about each element to design the software as discussed, validating the installation of elements in the application according to the client's requirements, calibrating the security protocols, and performing risk analysis for the software application. And all the discussed details are then to be filed in the Software Requirement Specification document, also known as the SRS document. After completing the second phase, third stage of software development, the design phase, the software designers will devise the system design following the SRS document. The system design defines the overall architecture of the software and checks its feasibility with the client's requirements. All the details of the design phase are added to the design document specification, also known as the DDS document, and shared with the analyst and stakeholders for review. Next, the development moves on to the fourth stage, the coding or implementation phase. In the coding phase, the developers start writing the code using the languages they choose for the software development. The coding stage is also one of the most important phases as it encapsulates the implementation of the software product. The developers use predefined guidelines and development tools like compilers and debuggers to implement the code. The next phase of the production is where we begin with the fifth stage of software development, the testing phase. The developed software is now deployed in multiple test environments to check the functioning of all the attributes in the software architecture. After the test cases are completed, the quality assurance and the testing team may find errors or bugs in the software, which will be forwarded to the developer team for debugging. This testing and debugging process continues until the software is stable and works per the required specifications. As for the last stage in the SDLC lifecycle, the deployment and maintenance phase is initiated. With the testing phase completed, the software application is ready for deployment and consumer use. In this phase, the development team will set up links for the application and make it accessible to the users. After the deployment is completed and users begin using the application, they may encounter an error or a bug in the application, which is to be solved from time to time. Maintenance also includes releasing application updates and enhancements for the software for better performance and user experience. Adam, at this point, was surprised by all the effort and steps taken by the development team to design a software application and the key phases involved in SDLC. And on that note, here's a question for you all. What does the design document specification document include? Software code, details on defects and bugs, software architecture details, software requirements. Give it a thought and leave your answers in the comment section below. 3 lucky winners will receive Amazon gift vouchers.
You could receive this voucher. Okay, so that was just like actually waterfall or SDLC methodology. But we just actually, we call it traditional methodology because traditionally, many of the projects, almost all of the projects used to actually follow this methodology. But because everything changed rapidly, we came to this conclusion that maybe it's not flexible enough. So we just actually shifted our approach to agile development, like the Cisco systems that we talk about. Agile is rapid incremental changes in small activities, right? And we're going to talk about the agile methodology. I already have talked about it. And in next slide, I have another nice video for you talking about, okay, what is agile methodology? You can use agile methodology in every project, especially if the environment is not certain. Like imagine that for COVID-19 vaccine, of course they didn't know what will happen and how they can come up with a vaccine, a very efficient vaccine. So that was the point, that they had to be as flexible as possible and be as innovative as possible. So agile methodology is the best methodology in these situations. For tech industry, this is the best methodology. Why? Because we need to change everything really fast, rapidly, swiftly. So for that change to happen in our projects as well, we need to actually be able to do that. And agile is the best approach for us to follow. We have different frameworks in agile, and one of them is Scrum. Scrum is part of the agile framework, and it's all about breaking down complex projects into smaller, manageable tasks that can be developed and tested quickly. Remember those like cycles or just like circles that we saw in the first slide? Agile methodology is about this. And Scrum, as part of the Agile framework, follows the same principles. So how Scrum works, as you can see, we have different roles, responsibilities, and activities in Agile methodology. One of these roles are product owner. Product owner is the person who represents the customer's interests throughout the entire process. They are responsible for making sure that the final product, whatever it is, it can be actual product or it can be a software, aligns with what the customer organization needs and wants. So they always attend all of the meetings that we have. So they create and prioritize the product backlog. This is something that we have in the Scrum framework or method, product backlog, which is essentially a list of features and all the functions that need to be developed in our project. The product owner will also communicate with customers constantly to make sure that their feedback is incorporated into the product as it's being developed. So it's very important to communicate with the customer, at the same time translate all those demands, requirements, modifications, or changes to the development team. Another one is user stories artifact here. And instead of lengthy specifications, the product owner creates user stories, very friendly, short descriptions of features or functions from the customer's perspective, right? And usually we write it in a plain language. For example, a user story might look like, as a user, I want to be able to log in using my Google account. So I do not have to remember another password. That simple, right? So these user stories help to ensure that developers understand what the customer actually wants and need, and can work on features that will kind of add value to the customer and to the product. And that product backlogs or backlog is very important because it's a dynamic list, is a working document that will list all the features and functions that need to be developed. And the product owner keeps this list updated and, of course, prioritize. And we have to-do list that drives the development processes. Um, and it's a very dynamic list. So it evolves as new needs are discovered, or when we gather the customer feedback, we say, oh, okay, we need to just actually add this feature or change to the product backlog. We have a sprints, which is something that you can hear a lot when it comes to agile methodology, Scrum method or framework. What does it mean? Instead of working on the entire project at once, something that we used to do in traditional way, SDLC or waterfall approach, the development process is broken down into different sprints. What is the sprint? 2 weeks, 2 week periods is just like usually 2 weeks. We can actually, it can change to, it's not written on stone. We can actually change the duration or periods, but usually it can be defined as 2 week periods during which small set of features from the product backlog that we have are developed and tested. At the end of each sprint, there is a demo or review, so we can actually showcase what we've done during that 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever we set for our projects. Why do we do that? To be able to get quick feedback and make adjustment early on. So if we have small focus bursts of development rather than working on the whole project all at once, is a sprint that we can actually define for our project. We have different roles in Scrum team as well, because Scrum team is usually made up of small self-organizing teams of developers. They're very agile, they're very innovative, they're self-organized, and they can work collaboratively with the other members to complete the task as soon as possible. What is unique about Scrum team is that they do not have specific titles or managers. This is actually a good feeling. We want to create a culture, atmosphere, ambiance, whatever you name it, that it's just like everyone is equal and each person actually brings their expertise to the table to get things done as fast as possible. So Scrum teams are cross-functional. What do I mean by that? It means that they usually include designers, developers, and testers all on in the same team. Remember those cycles in the first slide? That help to ensure smooth collaboration between different members, that they need to know what has changed and how it will be changed, and then we can just actually reach to faster results. We have a Scrum Master in any Scrum project. And by the way, if you're interested in these methodologies or agile methodology, you can actually you can get educated in this field, and you can receive your certification and become a Scrum Master. Scrum Master acts as a coach for the whole Scrum teams. And their role is to ensure that the team follows the Scrum process and removes any obstacles that might slow the team down. It's very important to just actually to have the Scrum Master in the team. And it's very important to understand that the Scrum Masters are coaches. So they don't tell the team how to solve your problems. Their job is only to guide them and support them in making their own decisions and trying to figure out the best way for the whole members to work together. And this is very important because sometimes they feel that, okay, if I'm a Scrum Master, am I being responsible for everything? No. As I mentioned, Scrum teams are cross-functional, are self-organized, are very innovative, and they're just actually very qualified to be in this team. Another concept that you need to understand is a concept of MVP, or minimum viable product. This is one of the key ideas in Scrum when we are just actually creating this minimum viable product, because this is a version of the product that includes just enough features to be usable and to be able to provide value to the customer. It's not fully complete, but it's just like actually the version that we can present it to the customer. Usually our purpose in the MVP is just like actually we build MVP quickly, and we want to demonstrate it to the client for feedback. Our primary goal is to release something that can be improved upon over time based on just like real user feedback. And it's just like very important for the team because it's all about getting something out there early to be able to learn from user and then start iterating on it. So iteration in agile methodology, in Scrum, or in any other frameworks in agile methodology is the key word, iteration. So we just actually go back and try to modify ourselves and fix the bug and just actually improve the product as fast as possible. Another concept is a burn down chart, which is like a very nice, I myself really like it because it's a visual tool used to track the progress of a sprint or product release. And it shows how much work is remaining and whether the team is on track to complete everything within the sprints framework or we are behind the schedule. And usually, typically, that just actually tracks work left over time. And as work is completed, the chart shows that. And it's just like actually burns down, giving the team, as stakeholder, all the stakeholders, a very clear visual picture of progress. So these are just like different elements if you're interested in a Scrum framework. But just like in a nutshell, Scrum is great for projects that the situation is not certain and the requirements, customer requirements, is not clear yet. So we want to learn with customer. That's the reason that we want to be flexible, adapt quickly, respond to feedback, and we cannot do this in waterfall approach, right? So since agile methodology and specifically Scrum emphasizes constant communication, collaboration, iterative development, it actually ensures that the final product is aligned with the customer's need, that we together, meaning that the developers and the customer together have figured out what is going to be the customer's needs and what's going to be the final product, continuously improved, right? So it's just like actually a very important approach, especially in modern era that everything is changing rapidly. So in tech startups, you can see a lot of innovative environments. So Scrum is actually ideal because it helps teamwork quickly adjust everything like very fast and quickly. And many companies, like for example Zappos or Spotify, many companies, they just actually use and utilize this methodology to keep their development cycles fast and flexible. That's for like kind of just giving you a big picture. But let's watch this video together about what is agile methodology. So based on what I already have explained, let's watch it together. So visually you see it, you see the pictures, and hopefully you remember the concept.
Build a website you love with Wix. For your words,
Alex has just completed his graduation from Stanford University. One fine day, he receives a mail from Star Trek Technologies for an interview for the designation of a software engineer, as referred by the university. Alex was really happy and excited about this, and starts preparing for his interview next week. While he was preparing, Alex came across the term downtime. Alex has no idea. What is a downtime? He decided to seek help from his uncle John, a software engineer. John explained that downtime is a specific time frame allocated to deploy or update changes for a software product in a real-time environment. And this happens because most of the softwares we use today are developed using the waterfall model. For example, Cisco, one of the popular leaders in IT and networking globally, is using agile methodology for their subscription billing platform, SBP, as it was originally developed using the waterfall model. After adopting the agile methodology, Cisco's product improved its overall efficiency, where defects were reduced by 40% compared to the previous releases, and defect removal efficiency increased by 14%. Upon explaining what downtime is, John further added that downtime is a small part of the waterfall model. It is the traditional way of developing softwares using a software development lifecycle, where the whole product is treated as one single unit, and the development of one phase starts only after the completion of the previous phase. Adding new features or updating the existing feature in a waterfall model-based product needs a specific time frame known as downtime to avoid disturbance in the workflow of an organization, where applying changes in a waterfall-based product might produce irrelevant results or product failure. The waterfall model is the earliest or the traditional model used for software development, where the output of one phase acts as the input for the preceding phase, consisting of a series of steps, where each phase has specific deliverables that act as the input for the next phase, as it avoids overlapping of phases, as these phases are dependent on each other. This method is simple and easy to understand, where prerequisites are pre-known, documented earlier, and technology remains static, where there is no need for ambiguous requirements due to the delay in software delivery. In contrast, the final version is available only after completing the entire software lifecycle process, with any deviations if available. Changes in the waterfall model contain high risk, as changes include a new, revised version of the entire software running the entire series of steps again and again. For example, a tap and pay machine, where the machine first validates whether the customer's account is funded with sufficient funds or not, and then initiates the transaction for money transfer. Unless the validation is processed, the transaction cannot be initiated. Alex was curious and asked Uncle John, is there any way to overcome the drawbacks of the waterfall model? John replies, yes. Agile methodology was introduced to overcome the problems faced in the waterfall model, where agile-based products are developed by breaking the entire product process into microservices or phases, which is faster to execute and deploy changes on the go. There is no need to worry about other or previous tasks while working on one particular phase, avoiding product failure. Agile-based products don't require any particular time frame, downtime, to deploy changes. Unlike the waterfall model, where the whole product is treated as one single unit, and each process is dependent on the preceding processes, where deploying changes leads to downtime. How agile products are developed? Agile-based products are developed using the agile lifecycle. At first, the developed product is implemented in an actual working environment for reviews from clients and stakeholders to check its deliverables and functionality. After client reviews, the official product is launched in a real-time working environment.
where Agile methodology focuses on satisfying the consumer needs by efficiently utilizing the resources and avoiding additional risks or deviations in the product. For example, providing a trial beta version of the software for the end user to experience the software towards its deliverables and results will be helpful in refining and reviewing the product like Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, etc. After understanding all about Agile methodology, Alex asks Uncle John, are companies implementing Agile in their workspace nowadays? John replies, yes. Companies are moving towards Agile methodology due to its flexibility and advantages over traditional systems. By adopting Agile for their Sony Interactive environment, Sony noticed a major difference where there was a reduced planning time by 28% with their framework, and downtime was reduced to the maximum, which made the company save $30 million a year. So here's a question for you. What makes Agile different from waterfall model? A. It is dependent on microservices. B. Agile consumes more time. C. The process is broken down into several phases. D. None of the above. Please give it a thought and post your answers in the comments.
That's a good question, right? To answer. You can think about it and answer that question and the quiz. So these are just actually good discussion questions as well that you can think of, and based on these 45 minutes of explanation of what is SDLC or waterfall approach, what is Agile, what is Scrums, what's sprints, what are sprints, and what are the differences and how they are just actually different from each other. I think you can just actually think about it and answer those questions. So, we already have talked about these sequential versus partly parallel development process and how it works. Remember that I said that just like sequential and how we have to wait till all the product activities are completed and then move to the next phase. As you can see in the top graph, that we just actually have different separate phases over time that starts with opportunity identification, concept development, product design, process design, commercial products. Well, at the second or the bottom one, you can see just like actually we have some overlap. So there are just like key steps in the sequential NPD process that here idea generation begins with brainstorming and idea generation, right? So at this stage, usually companies gather new ideas for products based on market research, feasibility study, customer needs, technological advancement, or internal innovation. All of them can be source of the various source that we can just actually get ideas from. And then we want to screen our ideas, which is called idea screening. So once a pool of idea is generated, we need to evaluate and screen them, because not all of them are going to be valuable to us. Some of them are just like noise, right? So this step involves selecting the best ideas that actually fits company's goal, our capabilities, the market needs that we are facing, because maybe something is actually very brilliant, but we cannot afford it. So it's not really good for us. It can be ideal for another company though. So we have to just see what's the best idea for us given our situations. So we have to do a comprehensive feasibility studies to be able to identify that, go through idea screening and eliminate impractical or unprofitable ideas for us, for ourselves, for our unique company. Then we just actually, when the selected idea is there, we can actually, we need to turn it into a product concept. What do I mean by that? A product concept is the detailed description of the product's features, benefits, target market, and then the concept testing will be performed with potential customers, and just like actually to see if there is interest and if the concepts that we have come up with is going to meet their needs. So in this stage, that we call it business analysis, companies conduct a cost benefit analysis, or CBA, which is really important. Why? Because we want to examine production cost, pricing strategy, what is going to be our profit margin, or like the BEA, or break-even analysis, for us to be able to determine if the product can be profitable for us, given exactly our situation or our capabilities. And then after the business analysis, the actual product design and development begins, because now we just actually understand what is going to be the product and how we can actually make it profitable, the idea, make it profitable. So we will go through different stages, prototypes or samples of these products are created, and it will actually go through a rigorous testing and refinement to make sure that it works as it is intended. And now we want to test the market. Before full-scale production, companies actually do the market test. And with this usually involves the introduction of the product to a small segment of the market. Why? Because we want to just actually gather real-world data or feedback, what's going to be the customer reaction, and potential issues or bugs that we need to fix before we just actually launch it at scale. If the product performs well during the market testing, now it's time to launch the product and introduce it to the market at scale. And usually this involves large scale production and distribution and marketing campaigns, because we want to promote our product to the target audience. And then, of course, for any product, we have post-launch review and maintenance, that we just actually want to continue to monitor the product performance, make sure that we're just actually gathering feedback, fix any possible issues, and make sure that we are making modifications to improve the product. So it's just like actually different ways that we can do it. So in some situation, we go through the sequel process when the situation is well known, when the situation is kind of certain, and we understand the market, we know the market. Maybe the product is new, but we just actually understand. We used to do it a lot. So many organizations, especially US, they used to deploy this traditional sequential process for their NPD. However, now many organizations, as you actually watched in the video as well, they use agile methodology, which just like actually have the partial development process and a lot of overlaps between different stages. Now, with all that I explained, and you just actually by now you should understand that the waterfall SDLC approach, why do we need it, and when we actually go through different stages in a waterfall approach, and agile methodology, why do we need it, how it works, sprint, Scrum, and needs to just actually sprint in a Scrum. And now I invite you to watch this video to be able to understand Scrum as well, with all the explanation that I provided.
Video. with details on what you need to start using Scrum today. This video is intended for people who are just getting started with the Scrum framework and need a quick primer. Hi, my name is Steve Stedman, and I am the founder of Usility Software. In this video, we will cover the basics behind Scrum, and we'll take a look at how Scrum compares to waterfall development, and we'll examine the 3 roles, 3 artifacts, and 3 ceremonies that make up Scrum. First, let's take a look at how Scrum compares to the older alternative of waterfall development. Waterfall typically goes through a lengthy planning process, which could take several months, followed by building the product, which again could take many months, and then testing the product, reviewing, and eventually deploying the product. At this point, you may end up bringing the wrong product to market if market demand or technology has changed since the original plan was developed. There are several problems with this method. First of all, the planning must be completed before any work begins, and in most cases the planning is done without entirely understanding the project. Once development is being done, oftentimes things get sent back to the planning phase, and the project either needs to start over, or the developers are just criticized for not understanding the plan. This cycle can happen many times. When development is done building the product, it gets thrown over the fence to test, where when problems are encountered, it bounces back to development and sometimes back to planning. The same issues occur in the next few steps, with lots of backstepping and doing over. This can lead to lag times and many months to several years in order to get a product out the door. With Scrum, an implementation of Agile, the process is broken up into smaller pieces. First, we do just enough planning to get started with, building the minimal feature set. We build what was planned. Next, we test and review that small feature set and get it ready to ship. When that cycle is complete, we end up with a potentially shippable product. This process usually occurs in a time period of 1 to 3 weeks. This is then repeated time and time again, reducing the time from planning to development to testing. Each time through the planning process, we're doing just enough planning to complete the next incremental release. You end up with several incremental releases called sprints. A sprint usually takes from 1 to 3 weeks, and you just keep repeating these sprints until your product is feature complete. Sometimes you may end up shipping your product after the second sprint, or the third, or the fourth, or even further, but you eventually end up with a shipping product. In Scrum, there are 3 key roles that are needed for the framework to work well. First, the product owner. This is the person responsible for defining the features that are needed in the product. The product owner has the bright ideas that turn into products. The Scrum Master is a servant leader to the team, responsible for protecting the team and the process, running the meetings, and keeping things going. The team can be made up of developers, testers, writers, and anyone else that helps in building the product. Team members often play multiple roles. Some days developers may end up doing test, or testers may end up writing. Either way, the team works to get the product done. There are 3 artifacts or documents that are used in Scrum. First, the product backlog. This is where product owners create a prioritized list of features, known as user stories, that could go into the product. This list evolves and changes priority with every sprint. User stories are a way of describing a feature set that follows the as a user, I need something so that reason format. This way of phrasing a user story allows the product owner.
Remember that I said that, for example, as a user, I want to just actually log in with my Google account, right? Very plain language. English language, and just like very simple.
To specify the right amount of detail for the team to estimate the size of the task. The highest priority user stories go into the sprint backlog. These get estimated for size and are committed to for the next sprint. Burn down charts show the progress during a sprint on the completion of tasks in the sprint backlog. This chart should approach 0 points, as the work is being completed. There are 3 ceremonies that make up Scrum. Think of these as meetings or discussions. Sprint planning is where the product owner, Scrum Master, and team meet to discuss the user stories and estimate their relative sizes. The daily Scrum is a brief stand-up meeting where the team discusses what they have completed since the previous meeting, what they're working on, and anything that might be blocked or need help. The sprint review and retrospective occurs at the end of the sprint. This is where the team demonstrates the completed work to the product owner, and then the team discusses what they can do to improve the process going forward. Let's bring it all together and take a look at the Scrum workflow. Start with the product backlog, which is where the product owner builds a list of the bright ideas and features that could go into the product. The product owner prioritizes the list and brings the top items to the team. Sprint planning is where the team, product owner, and Scrum Master discuss the top priority user stories, determining what can go into the next sprint. The output from the sprint planning meeting is the sprint backlog. This is a list of user stories that have been committed to for the next sprint. The entire team and product owner have a solid understanding of what each of the user stories involves based on the discussions from the sprint planning meetings. The sprint is a 1 to 3 week time box where the work committed to in the sprint backlog is worked on through to completion. During the sprint, the daily Scrum occurs as a stand-up meeting where the team discusses what they have completed and what they are working on, as well as any blocked items. The outcome of the sprint is a potentially shippable product. Potentially shippable means that the product owner can decide if it is ready to ship or if there are any additional features needed before it ships. At the end of the sprint, a sprint review and sprint retrospective meeting occurs. The sprint review is where the team showcases their work to the product owner, and the retrospective is where the team works on what they can do to improve their process. Repeat this workflow for each sprint. Now, for a software solution to help manage the workflow. Usility has been built around the Scrum process to help people fill in the 3 Scrum roles, manage the 3 artifacts, and better run the 3 ceremonies. Visit usility.com for a free trial and for additional Scrum training.
So these are actually very trendy in the market. And if you're interested in receiving certifications in these fields, you definitely can find a very good place for yourself. And you can apply for jobs if you have these certificates. Okay. So now that we've understood the differences in the methodologies that we can use for different projects, let's talk about project champions. Who are they? You know, the role of senior executives as project champions of our NPD, new product development projects, are very important. So they are just like actually senior executives that work or presents themselves as our project champions. And it's very common, quite common across different regions. And as you can see in this slide, about 68% of North American firms, 58% of European firms, and 48% of Japanese firms. And these stats are for, if I'm not mistaken, 2020 to 2022, maybe now is more, reporting that senior executives are involved in championing their NPD initiatives. So why do we do that? Because a champion in NPD is usually a senior executive typically, who takes the lead in promoting and supporting a specific product development project or our NPD. Their role are essential in projects advocate within the company and if needed even outside. So they have the responsibility and authority to make sure that the project gets the attention inside the company and, of course, the resources, required resources that the project needs to succeed. That's the reason that we're saying that it's better to be selected from executives and senior executives, because they have the required authority to assign their resources whenever it's needed and be our project advocate. So there are a lot of benefits to having the project champions, because they first and foremost, they have power to fight for the project. Senior executives usually have the authority to make critical decisions and push through challenges, something that we need in many projects, right? So when obstacles arise, they can actually advocate for the project, they can fight to keep it alive, and their position in the company allows them to do so and protect the project. So we need them, kind of. And they have access to resources, because as the senior executives, they have control over the company's budget and resources, so they can allocate the necessary financial resources, human resources, and even technical resources to make sure that our project is well equipped to be able to be successful. And usually they have ability to connect different departments and make sure that all parts of the organizations are aligned towards the project. With all the advantages, there are some challenges and risks there if we want to have senior executives as champions in our project. Oh yeah, it's very good, but sometimes they are, when we just actually rely too heavily on these people, and these people, they just actually take everything seriously. Sometimes they develop a strong emotional attachment to the project, especially if they have been personally involved from the start and from the beginning. And that attachment can somehow cloud their ability to evaluate whether the project is on the track or not. And sometimes they just actually may overlook potential problems because they are too emotionally invested in the success of project. Remember that I told you one of the most important capability of a project manager is the ability to kill the project. Why? Because sometimes we know that irrelevant of the amount of energy, resources and everything else that we have invested in this project, the project will not work. And if we 100% sure about it, we have to kill the project. And the earlier, the better. But sometimes when they have these champions, they want to postpone it with the hope that we can find a solution. And that can be really tricky, and at the same time can be really risky. Another risk is just like senior executives in their role as champions may suffer from escalating commitment, right? What do I mean by that? They just actually have tendency to continue investing in a failing project, as I mentioned and explained why, because they've already invested on them. They've already invested time, money, resources, and most importantly, their reputation, right? So they want to just make sure that this project is going to be successful no matter what. But sometimes that doesn't work. Another risk, which is somehow very important to many project managers, including me, is just when a senior executive is championing a project, usually other team members, especially subordinates, may feel hesitant or even kind of fearful about offering actually different opinions or challenging the decisions made, which is critical to our project, right? We need to receive feedback. And if the critical feedback is stifled project does not receive the feedback it needs, definitely the result may not be good, and we just actually suffer from lack of fresh perspective. So we have to just make sure that we have everything in kind of a balanced mode, but definitely it's very important to have project champions in our team. As you can see, there are just like actually some myths about product champions that we just actually here review each one of them, each one by one together. These scholars argue that a number of myths have become widely accepted about champions, right? As you can see, myth one, projects with champions are more likely to be successful in the market. What do you think, right? The reality is that while having a champion really can help us with securing resources, as I explained, and provide us the support. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Provide us the support that we need, but sometimes they just actually can kind of we can face some issues that like factors that are beyond the champion's control. For example, market condition. What can they do about it, right? Or customer behavior that already is changing, or competitive actions, right? Or even like all the technological advancements or technological shifts that we are actually seeing on daily basis, right? So champions may advocate for the project, but their influence cannot actually guarantee the project success, right? So even though it's important, but just like many projects face like external factors that are beyond champions' control to manage and make sure that they can control it properly. Myth number two, champions get involved because they are excited about the project, not because of self-interest. What do you think? World champions are usually passionate about the projects they lead. Studies show, or results suggest, that champions are more likely to support the projects that has nothing to do with their interest, but benefit their own product, their own departments or career goals, right? So they just actually want to enhance their department's reputation, standing, gain visibility, kind of secure resources for future initiatives. So it's just like less related to their interest and more to other factors. Number three, champions are more likely to be involved with radical innovation projects. I am very interested to know your take on it. What do you think? I know we are not in live session or in the class, but I would love to hear your insight on that. And usually we have like a very engaging discussions when we have in-person classes. The reality is the idea that champions are just like actually attracted to disruptive, radical innovation is not entirely true. Why? Because they just want to be involved in incremental innovation projects, because there are less risks involved with that. Radical innovation means there's just like groundbreaking changes that we don't know what will happen. We're not sure about the result, and everything is uncertain. Instead, many champions support those projects that offer a more predictable, less risky path to success. And then, therefore, incremental innovation is something that they're just like actually support more than radical ones. Number four, champions are more likely to be from high or low level in the firm. Either is equally likely. What do you think? Reality is champions can come from both high and low levels within a company. And just like there is no kind of consistent pattern that champions are exclusively from top executive or entry level employees. We said it's just like better from that be chosen from the senior executives because of the level of the authority that they have, but this is not always the case, and they can actually be selected from both of them, and there is no consistent pattern from the studies. Number 5, champions are more likely to be from marketing department. As you can see, the numbers in the stat there. While we might assume that champions are most likely from marketing department, why? Because they just want to promote everything. The reality is that just like only 14% of champions come from marketing. And a substantial portion, 15%, come from R&D, and the rest from other departments that we have in the organization. So this is very important because we just want to make sure that we want to involve customers in our agile methodology, and we want to just actually receive feedback. And there are just like many different ways to receive feedback. And whenever we just actually have reached the level of the product, we call it beta version, that like the MVP that I was talking about it's just like a version that we can present it to the customer to be able to receive their feedback. That's the version that is actually have enough features to be able to present it to the customer. And we need to gather customers' feedback, and there are just like different formats to do that. And as we can see, just like even crowdsourcing is one of them that they can actually people or companies can be like based on what we're producing, can be voluntarily participate and contribute their ideas or just like their feedback to the platform. And even suppliers, that their insight can be really, really important to us, and it can be just like actually very valuable to us. So we can actually, for NPD, because the distribution and for the supply chain is very important. So we can actually involve them as well and receive feedback, because it definitely can reduce cost or improve functionality because of their insights and their experience in the market. Remember that I told you at some point we have to decide to kill the project or continue proceeding our project. Usually we cannot actually rely on our gut feeling and say, okay, I feel that we have to kill our project. It's not enough. So we have, as managers, we have some tools available to help us to decide either we want to continue or kill the project, right? So for example, one of those frameworks that you can use, and it's very, very useful for many managers, is the stage gate process. That you can see we have like different stages and gates that we have to go through, different stages and gates. And if in each stage we need to utilize tough go kill decision points in the development process, and sometimes, for example, maybe in stage 2 or 3 we have to kill the project, and it's absolutely fine. So as you can see in idea generation, that we already have talked about it, in idea generation, that you just actually have to just go through that and go to the stage 1 for scoping after discovery and say, okay, the gate 2 is just like, does idea justify more research or not? If yes, you cannot proceed, right? You have to just actually have if the idea is just actually need more research, you have to just actually gather more cases and build more cases, and like gate 3, is the business case sound or not? If it's not, you have to kill the project. If yes, you can continue. Like the gate 4, should project be moved to external testing? Is it ready or not? We can actually launch it or not? And is product ready for commercial launch? And then you have to make sure that these are just like tough go kill decision points that we need to meticulously go through. And the reason that I'm saying is that, just like, for example, if you are going through a project, the cost will double, triple, or even more as well. As you can see, like, for example, if you kill a project when the project is only 1 month old, the cost that you've endured is $10,000, for example, for this project. And if you kill the project, wait, to be able to just actually get to 2 months old, you look at the cost, 10 times, $100,000. And look at 8 months, right? $1 million cost. And in 16 months, you already have lost $10 million, right? So it's very important for you guys to understand where to kill the project if the project is not feasible, impractical, or is not working. Otherwise, we can definitely proceed and make sure that the project is profitable. Like, for example, here, as you can see, is just like the stage gate process that can be modified because it's not actually written on stone. And as you can see, Exxon Research and Engineering's stage gate system, they have actually modified that 4 gates and added gate A and B as well for just like their own lead identification and pre-development assessment, and then going to development and validation, and then commercialization. So they just actually were able to make sure that this is like their tool for go kill the project or and utilize it for their own projects. And the quality function deployment, or QFD, is just actually a very interesting house of quality or interesting framework that usually we use as managers to be able to improve communication and coordination between different departments. As you can see, for this case, it's for engineering, manufacturing, and marketing. And you can see just like actually a house correlation between different features. And you just actually see on the left-hand side, team identifies customer requirements, and then you can see this is for just actually the door for just actually car, and you can just see, if I'm not mistaken, that's the door. How easy to open, these are just like a feature. Customer requirements, easy to open, it stays open on heels, does not leak, isolates occupants from road noise, and crash protection. These are just like actually customer requirements that we need to fulfill them. And then team weights requirements in terms of relative importance. And as you can see, the next column is importance. So as you can see, just like does not leak is just like the most important one, and then isolate noise and crash protection equally important, and then easy to open, and then stays open on heels. And then team identifies engineering attributes that drive that all the performance. Everything that you can see on the right hand side, all the features, like for example, what's going to be the weight of the door, or what's going to be the tightness of door and steel, or all these features are just like actually engineering attributes. And then we just actually enter the correlation between different engineering attributes, as you can see all those numbers, and kind of indicate relationship between engineering attributes and the customer requirements, and then multiply customer importance rating by relationship to engineering attributes, and then sums for each contribution. You can see 365, 135, 495, the summation of like each one of them, multiply by the weight, and then we can actually evaluate competition. So we use relative importance rating for just like actually these attributes and the scores for competing products, as we can see for number A and B, and we determine the best design target. So this is how we just actually want to find the best quality, and this is how it works. And these are just like the steps. Okay. So as you can see, if you want to just actually design for manufacturing, we just actually go through different set of rules. Why? Because we want to reduce our cost and of course the time, because time means cost for us. And at the same time, we want to increase the quality. Always there is a trade-off between time, cost, quality, always. So we have to just see what's the desired level for us. And as you can see, in this table, we can see just like designing rule that we want to minimize the number of the parts. And why is important? Because we want to simplify assembly, reduce direct labor, reduce material handling and cost for inventory. And definitely we want to boost our quality, or minimize the number of parts and eliminate adjustment, eliminate fasteners, and eliminate jigs and fixtures. And you'll just like actually see that mainly we want to reduce direct labor costs, reduce just like actually different costs, improved the durability, improved quality. And of course, the best way, especially these days with AI, is automation, the best way for manufacturing. Some of you are actually familiar with the concept of Six Sigma, especially when we are talking about just like that trade-off and how we can reduce cost and improve quality. We are talking about either Six Sigma or lean manufacturing, right? Or Six Sigma that in combined with lean manufacturing. So basically Six Sigma, we're talking about reducing like actually variation and defects, and we want to improve quality. How we want to identify like actually errors and defects and remove the cause of those errors and kind of defects. And it's just like it's a very efficient data-driven tool or method. And it has just like, it's a method that we have like the tools, of course, that we can statistically measure and analyze everything. And we use just like actually many engineers in manufacturing, they use it to actually remove defective parts in a production line. And many organizations have been successful to do that. Like, for example, reducing the defective part from, for example, 4% to 0.1%, which is like huge. In lean manufacturing, on the other side, we are talking about eliminating waste and improving the flow. And we want to just actually create more value for customer. How? We just want to use few resources, so we just actually cut cost and cut non-value adding steps. So in lean, it calls 8 steps of waste. That is just like defects, overproduction, weighting, etc. And then we just actually produce something that it has cost us a little bit less for us, so we can just actually charge the customer less. So it's going to create more value for the customer as well. So basically, in lean manufacturing, we want to streamline operations, improve workflow, and increase speed and efficiency. So together, many manufacturers, they use concept of Lean Six Sigma. So combine both to improve quality and speed together. So this is another method that we called FMEA, failure modes and effects analysis. This one is another systematic approach that helps different companies identify and evaluate, as you can say, potential failure in the system. And for example, failure modes, like the ways in which a system or product might fail, and then prioritize these risks based on their severity and likelihood and the ability to detect them. So it's just like actually we want to approach those identified risks, like for example, to prevent them, mitigate them, or manage those risks. Oh, I'm so sorry. Manage those risks. So we just actually want to, there are just like sequence of steps. So first, we want to identify those failure modes and see what are the what are the just like the places that we can have the possibility of those failure modes. Like for example, where can we find defects in manufacturing, like in design flaws or system breakdowns, where we need to identify those and then classify the failure mode based on the risk, as I mentioned, severity, that we have to definitely do something about them, and how serious would the consequences be if this failure happens. And we have to just actually make sure that we have seen that, because sometimes it's related to safety hazards or just like costly product recalls that we can see, like for example these days in some organizations, companies like Costco or Johnson & Johnson. And what's the likelihood and how likely is the failure to occur, and inability to detect failure, and how difficult, for example, we ask this question, address this question, that how difficult would it be to detect the failure before it causes harm. So we can just actually assign score to each criteria. Like for example, 1 is going to be the lowest risk and 5 is going to be the highest risk. And like for severity, for likelihood, for inability to detect. And usually we have like SLD, severity, likelihood, and inability to detect. And then we just actually multiply each one of them and then calculate the risk priority number, or RPN, and prioritize those numbers to be able to address them and make sure that we just actually have seen those cases or foreseen those cases. So we have like many tools that can help us in manufacturing, especially with AI these days. We have like CAD and CAM AI enabled. It's like definitely more powerful, and as you can see, just like they help engineers, and they just actually can build prototypes. They can actually test designs, rapid and inexpensive prototypes. And for CAM, they just actually can increase flexibility. They can actually modify changes faster in production setup. And for 3D printing, that we can see nowadays, is just like actually very, very amazing. That's a theory in action. And for different tools that we can use for just like actually development performance, we need to just actually first, based on our project, we need to identify which project it actually gonna meet the goals and why, and then benchmark their performance with other competitors or just with even our own prior performance, and then see our available resources and how we can allocate the resources efficiently, and definitely always just like actually fine tune our planning. every new product development process has a matrix that includes these kind of, as you can see, elements or features that we want to actually see what was the average cycle time to market for development project, and how it varies for project and how just like it works for different projects. What percentage of the development project undertaken within the last 5 years met all or most of the deadlines, and it helps us to just actually build a dashboard to make decisions based on just like how projects are working, operating, advancing, and make sure that which project is just actually on track, which project needs more attention, more resources, or then which project to kill, right? Or what percentage of development projects undertaken within the last 5 years stay within the budget, or we have allocated more budget. What percentage of projects undertaken within 5 years resulted in a completed product. And we are going to definitely look at the overall innovation performance. And we need to ask these questions and look at the percentage of projects that achieve their sales goals, and what was going to be the percentage of revenue that have been generated by products developed within the last 5 years. Always last for the 5 years is just like the strategic period time that we can look at to be able to see the performance and evaluate the performance, and what's the firm's ratio of successful projects to its total project portfolio. And these are just like actually another concept that is a concept of post-mortem. It's a very well-known process, and is a reflective process that occurs after the project has been completed, especially after when a project or system has launched. So in post-mortem, we just actually get together to analyze the successes and failures of the project, identify all the lessons learned, and then we provide actionable insight for future projects. Usually is extremely valuable for project managers. And I myself, whenever I manage a project, that postmortems for me are just like lesson learned and just like extremely valuable, because we can use them for future projects, and it can help us to learn how to evolve and avoid making the same mistakes in the future. So it's just very important and critical tool for us project managers to learn how we can actually work more efficiently, and we can actually foster a culture of continuous improvement, and we can constantly improve based on the lesson learned and mistakes that we already have paid the price. So we're going to avoid making price for the same mistakes in future. And we just actually can support accountability. So we just actually create a sense of accountability. So we know that every team members know that after the project ends, we will need to review the project openly, honestly, and this actually encourages them to take ownership of their responsibilities throughout the project. And it really helps us to build trust and transparency. We have real world examples a lot, like in Google, in Microsoft, in Cisco. I cannot actually think of any real world example that they don't have postmortems report, because this is just like very valuable to them and their teams. And these are just like actually discussion questions for this week. That's it for today. Thank you for being with me and for watching this Zoom recording. Please let me know if you have any questions regarding the concepts that we've covered so far, or regarding any of the assignments or your final paper draft. I wish you luck developing and finalizing your final paper draft, and have a very great rest of your day and week. Thank you, and bye for now.